on sunglasses on my channel might seem a bit odd, but guess what? These do playback music. Thank you to the folk at Lenovo family for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into how these are built. For a pair of sunglasses, the unboxing is quite straightforward. You get a standard cardboard box with all the info on it. Within it, you get a USB-A to micro USB charging cable, the literature and a see-through spectacle case which has the C8 in it along with a cleaning cloth. The dark glasses you get have a wayfarer design and a very neatly done matte finish on them. The temples are on the thicker side compared to a conventional set of sunglasses since these are housing some hardware in them, but at no point do you feel that they're too thick or heavy when wearing them. The hinges are smooth to operate, but these don't sit flush when collapsed due to their thickness. The nose pads and bridge are comfortable on the nose and don't cause fatigue since these weigh in at a very light 33 grams. The right temple has an embossed T on it which operates as a touch sensitive area, and on the underside of it you get a power on and off button, a micro USB connector to charge it up, and an opening near it which is on both left and right temples, which I presume are the microphones for when you want to take calls on this. And when you look further up, you'll see openings on either temples which are for speakers to carry audio to your ears. The glasses, or should I say the lenses on these, are a bit odd, so if you're not used to it, it can throw you a little off when you use them for the first few times. Polarized light, the light that it is cutting off is usually reflected light. So if you are looking at certain areas or certain reflected light from a certain angle, it will cut it off to a certain extent. But these in particular, I noticed that when I was using my phone and I started tilting my head more towards one side, it started cutting out the reflected light, or should I say the light coming off of the screen. It will work in this kind of situation with reflected light around you if you're in a certain environment. So if you happen to be driving a car which has displays instead of analog dials, and you happen to have your head at a certain angle when you're stretching your neck, it will cut off that light. So this is something to be aware of when you are using these glasses. On the feature front, this comes with Bluetooth version 5.0. It does have voice assistant support and it has touch controls as well. One tap on the touch area will increase your volume by an increment, and a long press and hold will reduce the volume. A double click of the power button will activate the voice assistant. To answer a call, you have to click the power button once. To reject a call, you have to tap the touch area once, and a single click on the power button will hang up the call you're on. Another neat feature that this does have is that it has multiple microphones, so you can use this for taking phone calls. So it does support environmental noise cancelling, but in case you want to see how this would function in a noisy environment, just to see how your recipient can hear you, there really is only one way to find out. So I'm calling you from the usual crowded street I normally do all of my call tests from, just to give you a sense of how much of an environment, how much of noise there is in this area, because these sunglasses, I believe, do have environmental noise cancelling. So of course you can see a whole bunch of two-wheelers, four-wheelers. You might get the occasional pressure horn from a truck, and there is some construction work going on over my left shoulder as well. So I have been on the camera microphone all this time, and I'll shift over to the Lenovo C8 microphone right about now. So this is the overall call clarity you can expect to carry over. This is the vocal tonality that you carry over to your recipient when you're wearing these glasses. Now, they have not disclosed how many microphones this has, but I suspect it does at least have 2 microphones, since it does need various data points to let the environmental noise cancelling work. So this is, of course, the worst kind of situation you can be taking a call in if you're going out on a walk, or even if you're using these somewhere near a beach, or generally if you're outdoors somewhere. Whereas this is bound to carry your vocal tonality over to your recipient significantly better if you're in a more controlled environment, like in your office or at your home. So this has been the call demo for the Lenovo C8, and I will see you back at the studio. This comes with dynamic drivers. It supports SBC and AAC codecs and has a frequency response of 180 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz. On a volume front, I have been listening to these usually at about 50% volume, because above that it can tend to get a little too loud for me. Now, if you do go past the 80% volume mark from the device you're broadcasting from, it can tend to start distorting, and it also does get quite shouty at those volumes. When it comes to soundstage, I never thought I'd be speaking about sunglasses and soundstage at the same time, but because the drivers are mounted slightly further away from your ears, it does have a wide stage with a good left and right separation with a good phantom channel, but don't expect phantom sounds to come from further out of them, because this is limited by the space that the drivers are constructed in. When it comes to its imaging, it's sharp enough when it comes to certain recordings. So if you're not overloading the drivers with too much, it can be clear, it can be crisp with simpler music, with maybe just one instrument playing or two instruments playing. The minute you start overloading the driver with more information, it tends to get a little overwhelmed. It's not exactly the most dynamic of drivers, so a lot of nuances can get lost if there's a lot more information being played back through these drivers. High frequencies can be a little on the shrill side, which does make these a little bit sibilant. The highs tend to pierce even at lower volumes, as low as 25 to 30%. This is where they have the most prominence, so if you do have an inbuilt EQ or third-party one, this range should be brought down if you intend on using these for music consumption. Listening to Coldplay's Viva La Vida, it's nothing but violins, percussion and vocal sibilance here. It's not the most pleasant sounding highs I've heard, but when this range is controlled via an EQ, it can carry itself in a more composed and more enjoyable manner. Mid frequencies are far from being rounded, and this is very clearly a limitation of the overall construction, but it does carry itself better than the highs do straight out of the box. Vocals and instruments here are a little truer sounding than the highs for sure, but I don't really see music aficionados reaching for these for music consumption. Detail and nuance doesn't really exist here, but where I do see these working really well is for social media consumption. It carries mid-range vocals clearly enough if you're listening to podcasts or scrolling through some reels. Listening to Billy Joel's The River of Dreams, there's a lot of detail missing from this beautiful piece of music, but his voice does come through quite cleanly. It does push through much clearer than all the other instruments in this range. Low frequencies are very clearly lacking due to the limitations of its construction as well as tuning. It sounds a lot like a slap on the wrist. There's an attempt in bass, but the driver is just too small and too far away from the ear canal to produce adequate bass to enjoy your music. Holding a earphone further from your ear with a high volume would replicate the way this handles this range. Listening to Major Laser's Lean On, the low frequencies exist almost in memory. These aren't capable of handling anything from mid-mids really. Maybe in a lab testing environment, but not in a real-life setup since your eardrum is as far from the driver as it is. Perhaps if Lenovo incorporated their bone conduction technology in the temples, these would handle this range far better. So to sum up, overall on a build front, I think these are absolutely beautifully made. I do like the fact that they've stuck to this matte finish and Wayfarer design, because you can't really tell, in fact, that these have any hardware in them. Anyone I've shown them to has genuinely thought they're only Wayfarer sunglasses, but anyone who's handled them or put them on and I've played music, it's just completely blown them away, because it's something that you don't really experience really. And even the temples for that matter, the stems of the glasses, you can't really tell that there is a battery or that it has any hardware in it, because it is still sleek enough, it is still slim enough, it's not too big and bulky, nothing sticking out of it. So you wouldn't think that it can do more than what it's supposed to do. On a feature front, well, I didn't think I'd be talking about features in sunglasses, but it's got touch control. So the fact that it even operates as well as it does is quite fascinating. So it is quite sensitive to the touch. In fact, I found that it is more responsive than some earphones I've used in the past. So it responds to every gesture I've put in. It's very quick to react. So I found it to be quite flawless when it comes to the touch controls in particular. On a sound front, these are not directed at somebody who is a music aficionado. You're not going to be wearing these sunglasses specifically to listen to music. I think Lenovo knows that. They've built this for the casual scrolling. They've built this in case you're in the car or you're going for a walk and you just want to answer a call through them. I think it's catered more towards that individual than anybody else. I think the same person who they're directing this at, they know full well that he or she is going to be listening to their music on headphones or earphones. So this does manage to bring that mid-range clearly enough for podcasts, or Reels or YouTube Shorts. I think it works perfectly well for that. And it's not really fair to really judge it from an audiophile perspective when it comes to its sound. But it does fairly well for what it is. Considering the driver is so far away from your ear, the mid-range does come through as clear as it should. And another thing I also do like, because the driver is as small as it is and it is further away from the ear, at least in a quiet room with a fan running or a place where there is ambient noise, a person sitting next to you, should I say 3 or 4 feet away, can't hear any of the sound that's being played back on these sunglasses, because it cannot carry that sound further away since it is such a small driver. So if you, however, you are in a treated room, if it's been acoustically treated to absorb noise and reverberation, that sound at 80% can carry over to somebody who's 3 or 4 feet away from you, but otherwise it stays within this radius of your head. So I wouldn't worry too much about people listening in on phone calls, even if you're in an open environment. It's not really going to carry over. So considering these sunglasses have so much going on, especially on a tech front and a sound front, I do think that these are terrific value for money. So speaking about the price, well, at the time of recording this video, they do have a maximum retail price of about $24.99. But you can use a discount code that the folk at Lenovo family have been kind enough to share with me, which I'll leave on the screen over here, which is LECOO9 for a 20% discount, making it just $19.99 from the Lenovo family website. So I'll leave their link down below in the description along with the discount code as well. And do I think it's value for money? Well, honestly, at $19, it's, or should I say $20, it's quite something. It does pretty well, because I think if you were to pick up a set of Wayfarers from any spectacle shop, it's going to cost you a lot more than this. And over and above that, you're not going to be able to take calls on it. So maybe the only negative I'd say is people who've got prescription lenses, because I don't know if handing this over to somebody to put in prescription lenses is a good idea, because they might just damage it. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're willing to take that risk to have prescription lenses put into it. I don't know if the folk at Lenovo actually recommend it. I do know that you can get 3 different options of lens colors when you're buying this, but I don't think you can really swap these out with prescription lenses in particular. So there you have it. That's everything you needed to know about the C8, and I hope you found this video helpful and informative. I do hope I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. And of course, if you would like to help the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.